So I don't know what this says about the rest of the characters in this movie, but the cat Frodo was the best character. I don't know if that's good news for the cat or bad news for everybody else, but you guys let me know what you think down below. Hey guys, my name is Brandon, aka the BrandoCritic. Thank you guys so much for being with me today. I really do appreciate it. And I'm gonna give you my honest thoughts on A Quiet Place Day 1. So this is an instance where I see the movie and I'm walking out and I'm feeling generally positive about it. But then I'm driving home with my buddy and we're talking about it and we have nothing nice to say about the film. Just nothing at all. So we hated it, right? No, that's the weird thing. I'm gonna give this movie a positive review, but the experience of watching this movie was really disappointing. It's an odd phenomenon. So this brings up the debate about whether or not to judge a movie based on what the movie is, like judging it on paper, the film school report card, or are you allowed to feel a bit disappointed because you're watching it within the context that this is a franchise, right? It's like, do you watch this in a vacuum or take into consideration all the films around it as well? So I'll say this right now, I think I would have really enjoyed this movie much more if I had not seen the previous Quiet Place movies. And who knows what people will think years down the road, because this is technically the first film in the franchise, chronologically speaking. It's like, do you watch The Phantom Menace first or A New Hope first, right? Two different experiences. So let's talk about the film first, and then I'll get into my experience watching it. So Lupita Nyong'o's character is a cancer patient, and her name is Samira. And I'll be honest, guys, I had to look that up online because I did not remember her name. And I never think that's a good sign when you just watch the movie and you forget the main character's name. But regardless, she's a cancer patient and she only has a few days left to live. So her and her cancer patients, her hospital group, go into the city to see some show. And the only reason why she's going is because she wants to go to a certain place that's special to her childhood. She wants to see it one last time before she passes on. But then of course aliens attack, and that doesn't matter. She still wants to go to this place and she has to survive in hell before she gets there. Along the way, her and her support cat, Frodo, meet up with Eric. He's a law student from London studying in New York City, and of course they bond and they connect with one another and they help each other through their own personal issues, and of course have to survive the apocalypse. So it's pretty typical monster movie stuff, very similar to like a Cloverfield, 10 Cloverfield Lane, Independence Day, somewhat, War of the Worlds. There's a lot of influences in here, and of course the other Quiet Place movies. But thank goodness that this movie has its heart in the right place. I did like these two characters. I thought they had great chemistry. There's some nice emotional moments with both of these characters. And yeah, the heart is in the right place. And thank God for that, because if there wasn't a heart in this movie, then this movie would have been very disappointing. And of course, these two characters are living in this world where you cannot make a sound. And that is my biggest problem with this movie. It's nothing new. This is where context matters, because like I said earlier, if I'd seen this before the other movies, I would have thought it was fantastic. Oh my goodness, you can't make a sound. This is really, really cool. But this just feels like a giant missed opportunity to do something new and creative and bold, and yet it just feels so familiar and it plays it so safe. It's so frustrating. Now, I made a YouTube short about this movie right after the theater, and I was talking about how this movie was really missing the sign language aspect of it. And somebody commented on it, and I agree with what they're saying. They said, well, it wouldn't have made sense if everyone knew sign language because, you know, the aliens attack, and then everyone has to realize that, of course, you have to be silent, and now everyone starts to learn sign language. The only reason why the other characters knew it because of their daughter. Like, I get it. It makes sense logically within the context of the story why certain characters would know sign language, and it would make no sense if everyone just started to learn sign language out of nowhere to adapt to the aliens, right? I get that. But I still think that it was the charm of the first two movies. It was a nice way to add characterization, a nice way to keep pace, keep the audience engaged, and it was different. Like, what other movie, you know, in the horror genre where people have to use sign language to communicate with each other because they can't talk because then aliens will hear them and the monsters will get them? It's a very unique thing, and it was missing in this movie, especially because they're doing the same thing. These characters are just trying to survive. You don't speak, you know what I mean? So what's the way around it? You make something different. Like, this is a prequel to A Quiet Place, right? This is showcasing how the aliens got to Earth and how everyone would adapt to this new lifestyle. Oh my goodness, there's monsters around, and if you make a sound, they kill you. And not only that, it's in New York City, the biggest city in the United States. I was expecting so much mayhem and so much chaos and just a wild gong show. Canadian slang for you. But we didn't get that at all. Honestly, I was actually shocked at how little of it we actually got. Now, pump the brakes. I understand that I'm in very dangerous territory talking about this stuff because now I'm not talking about the film itself and the film that I wanted to see. And in this category, in this territory, every sequel, every single book adaptation, or anything that's not a completely original idea, you know, you can talk about like, well, I wanted it to be this, I wanted it to be that, and we're not actually talking about the movie as it is, right? On paper. However, I still feel like because we have two other films, it feels like such a big missed opportunity because this film feels so similar to those ones. In terms of the tone, in terms of, you know, the pacing and the actual structure of the film, we don't get a 10 Cloverfield Lane from a Cloverfield. Does that make sense? Like, those movies are still in the same world, but it adds to the lore. It's a different structure, it's a different tone, it's a different type of movie, and yet they still feel connected because it's in the same franchise, and it works. And that is what I was hoping to see with A Quiet Place Day 1, and we just don't get that. Now, minor spoiler with how this movie starts. Like, it's a really minor spoiler. The opening shot is of New York City, and there's some text on the screen talking about how New York has like 90 decibels, like that's how loud it is, and it's like the equivalent of a constant scream. And I'm like, okay, how intense is this movie gonna be? How much carnage, mayhem, destruction are we going to see? And the biggest question, how are people going to adapt and learn how to survive from these aliens and these monsters by being quiet? We don't get answers to any of those questions. And that is very disappointing, very frustrating, because it literally lays it out for you. We're going to put the Quiet Place premise in one of the loudest cities on the planet, and you get nothing new with it. Sure, it's in New York City. It's a fresh coat of paint. You have action scenes in the subway, action scenes in skyscrapers in the city streets, but at their core, they're the same tense scenes that we've seen in the previous movies. And I'll end it off with this. You guys know the term comparison is the thief of joy? That is very prevalent here because we've seen those other movies, we have a lot to compare it to, and it's that same flavor of ice cream. We want some sprinkles, we want some Oreos in there, we want something different, not the same thing we've seen before. So overall, I'm gonna give this movie a 3 out of 5 because I can't look away from the fact that this is a well-made movie. It's competent, the characters are good, it's well shot, there are tense moments, it's well-paced, it's engaging, it is exciting in moments, but in terms of my overall viewing experience, it was a real big letdown. And unfortunately, I don't see myself watching this movie again. I don't feel the need to. I saw it once and I'm good. So there you go, guys. Those are my thoughts on A Quiet Place Day 1. I want to hear yours down in the comment section down below as well. If you guys are new here and you want to see more videos just like this one, then hit like and subscribe. And I also want to shout out my Patreon members. The link is down below. We do monthly watch-alongs. I give you guys movies every single month and giveaways and contests. And it's a lot of fun, a great community. Link is down below. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.